They have an Iranian.
Good morning, everybody. We're starting to study Torah today. We have lots to celebrate. We have seen the demise of two Hamans in the past 24 hours or 12 hours, I think it was, in the capitals of evil, just like in the days of Purim, where in Persia, the evil mastermind himself was executed. Thank God, due to unknown sources that we cannot name, it has been confirmed that the head of Hamas, the head of the snake himself, has been detached.
One of the heads.
One of the heads. Multi-headed, multi-pronged snake. So yesterday he met with the new president of Iran, and today he meets with the former president of Iran. Okay, we're studying Talmud today. We're on page 282 in the Ein Yaakov, which is the legends of the Talmud. We're actually in the middle of a story. It's one of the most famous stories in the Talmud. It's the day that the shul was shaken up. It was about 2,000 years ago. We started the story on page 277. A quick refresher. We actually refer to the story every year at the Passover Seder. That's why it's such a famous story. Well, one of many reasons. The story goes about the day when Rabban Gamliel was in charge of the academy, and he was not happy with the apparent insubordination of Rabbi Yehoshua. So he publicly humiliated Rabbi Yehoshua, at which point there was some sort of a coup, and the rabbis removed Rabban Gamliel from the leadership position. And who did they decide to appoint in his place? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Problem was, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was a little younger. He was about 18 years old. So overnight, his wife told him that he doesn't look very rabbinic. He has a black beard. You know, I always say, people ask me, "You're a rabbi? You're the rabbi of the congregation? You're so young." And I always say, behind every long white beard is a short black one. So here he was. He had a short black beard, and his wife said, "You don't look very rabbinic." So overnight, he developed a white beard. And that's why we say, he said the next morning, behold, I am as if 70 years old. Just a minute. Do you recall that? Do you recall that from the Passover Seder? Behold, I am as if 70 years old. That's what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said. This is the story where it happened, right? It's interesting that the beard is the mark of masculinity.
Of course it is. Those who don't have beard.
The beard is like the mane of the lion. This is what distinguishes us. In fact, I think I mentioned this in a previous class. Elsewhere in the Talmud, there's a discussion of the 5 most beautiful men of that time. It's like the Talmud's beauty pageant for men. And there's a discussion. There's a discussion there about certain names, right? And the Talmud asks, what about Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan, this guy was so beautiful. I want to tell you how beautiful he was. Rabbi Yochanan was so beautiful that he would sit himself. Look at this scholar. Look at this scholar, Marty. Love it. He would sit himself at the outside of the mikveh, the exit of the mikveh, because it's known that the visualizations that you visualize, the things that you see, deeply impact your reality. Now, science has not yet proven this, but that's okay. Science hasn't caught up to Torah. Give it time. Like everything else, science will eventually catch up. But the Torah tells us that what you see makes a deep impression upon what happens to you. And we see an example of this with Jacob. Whilst he was being swindled by his father-in-law, Lavan. Jacob in Genesis was working for his father-in-law, Lavan. How long did he work for his first wife, for Rachel? 7 years. 7 years. Then he was swindled. He got the wrong wife, the wrong sister, so he had to work another 7 years for Rachel. Right, and then he was still penniless. He had 2 wives and several kids, but he had no money, so he had to work another 6 years for the cattle. They had a whole deal between the spotted, the speckled, the striped sheep, goats, whatever. So what happened is that Lavan gave him only the animals that had no signs on them. Yet what he did is that he actually in front of the drinking troughs, he put sticks that he made like little notches or stripes or blotches on them with carving, and that's why they would see this while they were drinking and apparently mating, and the visual that they saw of the spots and the speckles is what caused them to give birth to such animals. Another interesting example of this is a little quite tragic, actually, during the story of Tisha B'Av. We're in the midst of the 3 weeks right now. Is that when the Romans conquered Jerusalem, and it was a terrible persecution, a conquest. It was an awful conquest. I said yesterday, like October 7th, without an IDF. And they took captive the Jewish boys and girls from Jerusalem. Good morning, Terry from Atlanta, Fran, Northern Florida, Corey and Andrew. Andrew, I think, is in Kentucky. Corey's local, and anybody else is live and later. It's a pleasure. Actually, I found out, by the way, sorry, in the middle of a story. I found out that Esti Arkala, her future father-in-law, studies Torah with us here as well.
Really?
Right here on YouTube. Isn't that amazing? So, l'chaim to you, Reb Shimon, in Tzfas, Northern Israel. His father, yeah. Isn't that amazing? Good. Let's keep on going. We're an international Torah study group. So here's the story. So what happened was that when they took these kids captive from Jerusalem, they brought them back to Rome. Amy, welcome from Long Island. I thought I'd see you in New York at the Bar Mitzvah a few weeks ago, but welcome back to our Torah stage here. Amazing virtual Torah study. I love it. So what happened was the story. It's a very tragic story. The Talmud tells us. We read about it on Tisha B'Av. We study about it. That they took these boys and girls, these beautiful boys and girls from Jerusalem, and they were gorgeous. They were physically beautiful, the boys and girls of Jerusalem. And these awful Romans, they would make sure to look at them during their copulation, so that in the hopes of conceiving children as beautiful as them. Right? So that's this idea. Now Rabbi Yochanan also, and by the way, when you come out, when a woman goes to mikveh, why does she go to the mikveh? It's a biblical commandment for a woman to go to the mikveh. You're bringing God not only into your synagogue, you're bringing God into your dining room, into your kitchen, into your bedroom, right? This is faith where it matters, right? It's easy to be Jewish in the shul, but can you be Jewish in the dining room? Can you be Jewish in the restaurant? How about in the boardroom? Right? Are you able to observe the laws of Torah? You know, Rabbi Yisrael taught a few minutes ago about the laws of tying and untying a knot on Shabbos. What's the big deal about it? Because you're infusing holiness into every mundane action. Every motion that we make is infused with divine consciousness and connection. This is a gift from God that He allows us to connect with Him in the most intimate and detail-oriented manner. Back to the story here. The courage to bring God into the bedroom is sensational. To be able to have the courage to say, I can't do what I want, when I want, and how I want, but it's rather on God's terms. This means I have a real living dynamic with God Almighty. So when a woman goes to mikveh, it's got to do with the menstrual cycle. It's got to do with the periods when she's allowed and not allowed to be with her husband. But when she comes out of the mikveh, it's always timed with ovulation, which is quite amazing because, if you think about it, the man and woman physically separate for almost 2 weeks, 12 days from the time of menstruation until she goes to the mikveh, which means that not only is she now at the peak of her fertility, she's ovulating, but also the man has exercised abstinence for 12 days. So he's at the peak of his, what's the word? Of his fertility, right? So when a woman comes out of the mikveh, it's known that what she looks at is very important. She should only look at holy things when she comes out of the mikveh. It's a known thing. When a woman comes out of the mikveh, she should only look at holy things. As the Rebbe also tells us that a child should not be shown images of non-kosher animals. What would it matter if you show a child a zebra or a camel? Zebra.
Excuse me.
Right? What would it happen if you show a child a zebra? Right? The Rebbe says that it has an impact upon some sort of invisible consciousness of the child. There's an energy here. It's very, very interesting. There's an energy. Anybody here believe in energy? You believe in energy? Chuck?
Can you see it?
Of course.
Oh, I love that question. Can you see it? You believe in electricity?
Can you see it?
No.
I believe it.
I believe in it.
There you go. Believe in it. Good. Not everything you don't see doesn't exist, right? You believe in wisdom? Can you see it?
Not so much.
Right.
Radio
Beautiful.
waves.
Anyways, back. Oh, Terry believes in energy. Love it. I want to tell you something about energy. Amazing thing about energy. Gee, I hope I don't distract myself with the tangent of the tangent. Something about energy. You know, the spies. We read about it in the Torah a few weeks ago. We read about the spies. Moses says spies, and he fails. Joshua, in the same haftarah, just 40 years later, he's one of the spies of Moses who failed of the failed mission. He now sends spies, and he's, oh yeah, I'm sure it's going to work out this time. Why would he send spies? You know, like, Terry, this, I think you'll appreciate this one. Why would he send spies? I mean, you know, the definition of insanity, and doing the same thing over, right? So there's one extra word in the prophets, in the book of Joshua. It says he sends them chushim. Chushim, the word chushim means death. D-E-A-F. D-E-A-F. Not like the dead Hamas beast, death, who's, thank God, death now. But deaf, he sends them deaf. Why does he send them deaf? What an interesting word that Joshua sends his spies deaf. So one of the commentaries, was it Rabbi Levi Yitzchak or Berditchev? I can't remember. But one of the commentaries says, he sends them deaf, he says, because you're going to a place of negative energy. Because the spies of Moses already failed, and therefore where you're going is negative energy. But make yourself deaf to the energy that surrounds you so that you can blaze your own trail. Right? Energy, right? Interesting, very interesting concept. You know, some people just give you good energy, some people give you negative energy. It's a thing, right? So back to our story here. How did I get into energy? I was talking about, help me.
The woman coming out of the mikvah.
The woman coming out of the mikvah. Oh, the energy that you get when you look at certain images. Certain images, right? There's certain things, you know, on the internet. You think, oh, I'm just looking. Negative energy. Don't do it. It's bad.
According to all of that, because of the beard of Rabbi Yochanan, who was so pretty.
We're coming back to Rabbi Yochanan. That's right. We're coming back there, right? There you go. That was our link. So hang on. Thank you, Yisrael. So hang on a second. So what's this? So I was trying to tell you about this. What was I just saying a second ago? I was just saying a second ago about the energy.
Yeah, what you're looking at.
Right. So now you think it says in the Shema, you know, it says, don't stray after your eyes. Right? That's what it says. Don't stray after your hearts and your eyes, because thoughts are the eyes. The eyes become the heart energy, right? Eyes, hearts, action. Starts with what you see, then becomes what you feel, and then it becomes what you do. So guard your eyes is where it starts. Now, back to Rabbi Yochanan. So here he is. The ladies are coming out of the mikveh, and he seats himself at the exit of the mikveh. Why? Because he wants a woman to see him. This is a bit of an interesting practice. Don't try this at home. But he said it at the exit of the mikveh because he was a physically beautiful person. And I'm not sure who gave him this idea, but the idea was that the woman should conceive beautiful children.
But he didn't want any of those women.
No. I mean, that's
God forbid.
okay. I'm not going in there or whatever. But anyways, he was a physically beautiful person. The Gemara asks the question. So why was Rabbi Yochanan not included in the list of the most beautiful men? I'm sorry. And the Talmud answers, because he didn't have a beard. Now, I don't know why he didn't have a beard. But it's interesting that it's like a defining factor here. Anyways, back to business. So we're in the middle of a story here. We're talking about the story of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who's now appointed the head of the academy, the head of the yeshiva. And he doesn't really have enough of a beard. So overnight, he grows this miracle beard the miracle growth that appears at our Passover Seder every single year. Behold, I am as 70 years old. Now, on that day, we learned that the sages changed a bunch of stuff in the yeshiva, right? They changed a bunch of things in the yeshiva. What do they do? They allowed the students in. What page are we on? I just lost my place here. 282. Thank you. Good. Thank you. So they changed a bunch of things. They opened the doors. They let the people come in, even without paying. Even the students that weren't really worthy, right? Okay, fine. Okay, so let's go back to 282, middle of the page. And so with that introduction, we go to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. We're going to the beard of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. And this is the meaning, middle of the page of 282. And this is the meaning of what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said. Oh, no, I have to go back a second. I have to go to 281, middle of the page. You have to go back to 281, top of the page. They came to him and they said to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, would the master be willing to become head of the Masifta of the yeshiva? He said to them, I'm going to go and consult the members of my household. He went and he consulted his wife. He asked his wife, isn't that interesting, hey? The man gets appointed a big decision. Interesting. Compare this to like Islamic culture for a second, right? Do you know what it takes to divorce a woman in Islam? You just say to her 3 times, "Get out of my house."
Where?
In the Islamic culture, you tell a woman 3 times, "Get out of my house," and that's it. It's divorced. In Torah, you want to divorce a woman, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you a lot of money. Why? That's what a ketubah is. A ketubah is a document it's actually the oldest document known to mankind. It's 4,000 years old that protects the rights of a woman. It's very, very interesting that you can't just have her. You don't rent wives. It's a buy-in. You gotta literally buy in so that she knows that you can't throw her out so she's penniless and homeless on the street when on a whim. A woman is protected. Look at this beautiful sensitivity here in the Talmud. He's offered a position. He goes to check with his wife. Let's take a look at the note 21. To be a nasi, which necessitates dealing with people all day long, a person's character traits have to be excellent. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah knew that it is easy for a man to fool himself into thinking that he has good character traits. A man's wife, however, knows the truth about him. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah went and he asked his wife if he was fit for the job. A wise man was once asked what the easiest thing and the hardest thing for a man are. He replied that the easiest thing is to fool himself, because to fool others requires effort and strategy, whereas a person fools himself constantly. And the hardest thing is to know oneself, because a person easily recognizes even the smallest faults of others, whereas he does not even recognize the glaring faults of his own. Another commentary at the very bottom of the page, Aristavash, which is Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. He says the reason he asked his wife's permission because the responsibilities of office intrudes on a man's obligations to his wife. I mean, that's highly sensitive. If you're going to take a position of leadership, then you're going to have to check with your wife, because it's going to cost you in your marriage, right? Interesting. There's an interesting story. I just want to contrast a quick story here. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon. What was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai who told his students? Oh, come on, get out of my way. Yeah, he tells the students that he wants to take them to Jerusalem for Mashiach. I think it's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He tells the students that let's go to Jerusalem for Shabbos to welcome Mashiach. Right? Let me see if I can find the story. Was it Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? I think it was him. And what happened was he tells his students, "Let's go and let's go to Jerusalem for Shabbos. Mashiach will come." They went and they asked their wives, and he said to them, "You're your lost opportunity." So I just want to contrast that story. I don't know if I can find it right now, but it's just interesting that there is a contrast there. That somehow they asked their wives over there, and it was there was a spur of the moment opportunity. Somehow that was viewed negatively. I don't remember the details of the story, so I'm just mentioning it. All right, let's keep on going with that story. So what did she say to him? He asked his wife, "Did you take the academy?" She says, "Maybe one day they'll remove you from office as well." How's that for a good piece of advice? Just like your predecessor was abandoned, was thrown away from office. Maybe they'll do the same thing, just as they did for Rabbi Gamliel. He said to her, "There is a saying, let a man use an expensive glass cup for one day, and the next day, 282, let it break." In other words, just because a glass could break, it doesn't mean I shouldn't use it today. It's an interesting analogy. If I have an opportunity to serve in the position of Nasi now, let me do so and not worry about the future. She said to him, "But you do not have white hair, and it is important for a leader to be old so that people will respect him." Isn't that interesting? In America today, if you have white hair, you're too old. Not in the presidential election, think about it. Was it just the white hair? I know. But would you rather vote for somebody young or somebody old? It's an interesting question to think about. In American culture today, who do you respect more, the old or the young? You do respect the old? Yes. I think that we're suffering from a scourge here in America, where the elderly feel over the hill. The older, I'm not going to go elderly. Those that are older feel like they are dinosaurs compared to the younger.
harder to understand.
By the way, it's one of the signs of Mashiach. The Gemara says in the end of Gemara Sota, one of the signs of the coming of the Mashiach is that the young will disrespect the old.
And they do.
There you go. So we're getting close, right? Okay. Oh, interesting. Thomas Jefferson here from I love studying Torah with Thomas Jefferson. He's from Monticello. Monticello. So Thomas Jefferson from Norway. He says he's had white hair since 17 years old.
4 years old.
He's wise.
Amazing. Good. Okay. Hi Ed. Okay, good. So 17 years old. He was how old was this guy?
Oh, well,
He was 18. He was 18 years old when he had white hair. Good. So what was I saying? That yeah. So in America, I'm not sure if they respect the old as much as they respect the young. Right? Here, she says to him, you need to have white hair for people to respect you. Now, bear in mind, how old people lived those days. You know, at certain periods of history, some people didn't live that long. You know, the reason why they got married at puberty is because life expectancy wasn't much past 30 or 40. So, you know, you needed to get a move on, right? So were you going to say something, Keith?
Footnote 2, just there are 2 other versions where he's 17 and a version where he's just 13.
Oh, 13 years old, another version. Okay, fine, very interesting. So, yeah, that's interesting. They want to point him at 13 years old. This guy must be a prodigy, right? A miracle occurred to him, and 18 rows of his hair turned white so that he would appear old. That's a fascinating story. By the way, you know, the Baal Shem Tov says he had 13 strands of hair in his beard. I'm not sure exactly what that means. We don't have a picture of the Baal Shem Tov. What?
I'm trying to count.
What? Do we have a picture of the Baal Shem Tov?
I'm trying to count your beard.
What? No, they were like strands. I don't know what strands means, but like, it's interesting. It's known. It's a very interesting point I want to share with you here. The Rebbe would say to people, you know one of the reasons you should have a beard? To make money. Because the Rebbe explained that the 13 attributes of mercy, Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim, are manifest somehow in Yud Gimel Tikunei Dikna, in the language of the Zohar, in the 13 strands of or something, locks of the beard. So when you grow your beard out, you are allowing your 13 attributes of mercy to flow. And if you're cutting your beard, you're cutting your attributes of mercy. So the Rebbe would say to people countless times, you want to make money, grow your beard out.
Keep letting it grow.
Let it grow, absolutely. Like Frozen, let it grow. Okay, so the Gemara interjects.
Some of the young kids.
The Gemara interjects, and this is the meaning of what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said in the Mishnah. I am like 70 years old. He said he was like 70 years old, but he was not actually 70 years old because he appeared old, but he was actually very young. Now, the Gemara continues what happened on that day. Now, this is very important because the opening words of the next piece is Tana Oisai Hayom. They learned on that day. Whenever the Talmud talks about Oisai Hayom, that day, and many times the Talmud will refer to Oisai Hayom, that day, as talking about this day. The day of the appointment of the new Nasi, he basically, new sheriff in town, he changed the rules. Let's see what happens. A brisa taught that day on which Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah became Nasi, they removed the doorkeeper from the entrance of the base medrash. I'm in the middle of page 282. So basically, they moved away the bouncer from the entrance of the yeshiva, and permission was granted for all the students to enter, because Rabbi Gamliel, the previous leader during the period that he was Nasi, would proclaim and say, any student whose interior is not like his exterior, that is, anyone who studies Torah but does not possess fear of heaven, may not enter the Beis HaMedrash. 283, when Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah became Nasi, he removed the guard from the door and allowed anyone who wished to enter to study to enter. Now, this is a fascinating piece of Talmud. I'm not sure if you were able to process what just happened here. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah becomes the new Nasi, the new president of the academy, and he says anybody can enter because his predecessor, Rabbi Gamliel, would say what? He would say that anyone who's insincere, basically, is not allowed in to study Torah. What?
How do you judge it?
I mean, what? Anybody who's insincere, who needs to come study Torah? The people that are perfect or the people that are imperfect? Who do you think? I would think, you know, we hear on Shabbos and Shul people pray for the good people around the world. I say it's the bad people that need the blessings. You know, the bad people need the blessings to get good, right? Think about it, right? Imagine, you know, there's another story in the Talmud of Rabbi Meir. He must have lived in an HOA because he hated his neighbors. His neighbors made his life miserable. So miserable they made his life is that he wanted to pray for their death. I'm not sure if it was an HOA, but it must have been. You know, you have those neighbors They're like, you got to paint your driveway, your leaves. We saw your leaves. They were on the
Oh,
ground.
yeah, we've heard all this.
So Rabbi Meir had such neighbors. So he goes to his wife. His wife is a very wise woman. Her name was Beruria. And he tells his wife about them. So he says, I want to pray that they should die. She says, what? Quoting the verse in Psalms 105. She says, Yitamu. It doesn't say Yitamu chitim min haaretz. It doesn't say that the sinners shall be removed from the land. It doesn't say that. It says Yitamu chatoim min haaretz. Only the sins should be removed from the land, which means the sinners are good. It's just the sins should be removed. In other words, don't pray that they should die. Pray that they should be turned around. So he listens to his wife's advice, and indeed he prays not that they should die, but that they should do teshuvah, and they do teshuvah, and they become good neighbors. So back to the Talmud here, we're trying to understand what's going on. Why would Rabbi Gamliel deny access to the people that were insincere, to the people that were imperfect, to the people? Now let's understand what he said. Let's look closely at these words. He says, anyone whose interior is not like his exterior. What? Whose interior is not like his exterior? What's primary here, the inside or the outside? What do you think? What do you think is more important? Who you are on the inside or who you are on the outside? What's more important?
We are on the inside.
Of course, who you are on the inside is more important. So why does he make it sound like what's important is the outside? Look at it. Look at his words. A student whose interior is not like his exterior sounds like he got it backward. It should say whose exterior is not like his interior. No, he's like, I only want superficial people here. Like, what is he saying? He's saying his interior doesn't match his exterior.
Maybe their exterior looks good and their interior is bad. So
They're rotten.
yeah, could
They're
be
like
the other way
rotten.
around. Yeah, could be the other way around.
But wouldn't it be more appropriate to say whose exterior doesn't match his interior? Why would you place primacy
I understand, but
on the outside?
But he's looking at what they look like, if they're presentable and they look like good people, even though they may be
So he said, look, I care about what you look on the outside, but I want to make sure that your inside matches. Yeah, it's like he's emphasizing klipa here. Klipa is your external self. Like what? Besides, I want to tell you, I disagree with the commentary in this edition of the Ein Yaakov, right? You'll see that the capital letters is the original verse, is the original Talmud, and the non-capital letters is the commentary. So look, is their art scroll commentary. Look at this. It says any student whose interior is not like his exterior, right? And look how art scroll translates it. That is, anyone who studies Torah but does not possess fear of heaven. No, so maybe I don't disagree. It means that he studies Torah on the outside, right? But he doesn't have a fear of heaven on the inside. No, I don't disagree with the commentary, and then I give it. Yeah, look, let's take a look at the Maharsha in the comment, note number 4.
How do you know if someone fears?
What?
How do you know if someone does not possess fear of heaven?
Yeah, how do you know that? How do you gauge that? Is there some sort of a fear of heaven thermometer? Wouldn't that be nice? You get like what? You have some guy at the door that's like evaluating your fear of heaven, like you're scanning them. Like there's a scanning machine. How do you know? You know? Okay, so bottom of page 4. Comment note number 4. Rabbi Avram Grozhinsky, the Mashgiach of Slobodka, the Lithuania, however, understands Rabbi Gamliel's criterion for admission to be requiring a loftier level. Do the student's innermost thoughts conform to the good deeds he performs? If one's heart's desires and the good deeds he performs are not completely in sync, then his interior is not like his exterior. Okay, fine, we got that. But so I want to just comment on this. I want to tell you something. You know that the Torah places emphasis on clothing. I've spoken about this before. The Torah places emphasis on clothing. Think about it. Anytime that the Torah emphasizes clothing, there were disastrous results. Now, hang on a second. Anytime the Torah would emphasize clothing, there were disastrous results. Think about the first 2 genocides in history. Isn't it sad how genocide has become like a cliche? Oh, you're a genocide. No, you're a genocide. It's like anytime somebody looks funny at someone else, it's a genocide, right? But a real genocide, right, which was the mass execution of a people, was the result of 2 leaders who emphasized clothing. Pharaoh killed indiscriminately the Jewish men, women, and children in Egypt. What does he do when he meets Joseph, Pharaoh? He dresses him in robes. This is what the Torah tells us. He dresses him in robes, very important, emphasizing the external robes of office above the content of one's character. Same thing with the second genocide in history, which was the Iranians, who indiscriminately planned and almost managed the Purim story, which was every Jewish man, woman, and child. What does the Torah tell us when Achashverosh meets Mordechai? He dresses him in robes of office, right? Which means these people who emphasized the external were perfectly capable of overlooking the humanity within a people and just killing them because they didn't like them for whatever reason. That's how superficial they were. You can only imagine how shocked Moses was when he hears that God has a whole Torah portion dedicated to clothing of the high priest and the priests, Parshas Tetzaveh. Moses is like, what? He was not a happy camper when he heard about this. There's a whole story about it. But I want to just say in brief that right here in this incredible piece of Talmud, it's so condensed, it's so nuclear, this piece of Talmud, but it's something to meditate upon. And we haven't even finished the story. I've barely started the story, but just to analyze this piece. Rabban Gamliel would deny access to people whose inside didn't match their outside. Because Rabban Gamliel understood what we've learned before in Chassidus, that if you want to change your inside, you've got to first change your outside. Rabbi Gamliel understood that you got to fake it until you make it. That the way you change your character is by changing your customs. There's a best-selling book these days out there. It's called Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits. Yeah. It says that if you want to become a better person, just change your habits. Just change what you do, and you'll become a better person. That's what it says. It's amazing, right? Chassidus has been saying this for thousands of years. That's right here in the Talmud. That you want to change, you want to become a better person, don't meditate. Don't go to a retreat somewhere and sit on a mountaintop for 7 days of silence. Just change your habits. Set your alarm clock. Make sure that you eat this food, not that food. Make sure to not say certain words. Be sure to use complimentary words to other people. Don't things like that, just actions. And if you change your habits, then what happens is that you will change your inside. Now, this is what Rabbi Gamliel is saying, that his inside doesn't match his outside. Now, my question is, and I'm going to leave you with this question because I don't know the answer to this question. If it's true what we've learned in Chassidus, that your inside follows your outside, then how is it possible that there's a student whose inside doesn't match his outside? How is it possible that if the guy was pious on the exterior, that he wasn't pious on the interior? Unless, maybe this is an answer, maybe it's proof that his exterior is fake. He's not actually walking the walk. Because if he was walking the walk, then he would be feeling the feel on the inside.
He's going to fake it till he makes it. It hasn't happened.
Well, then obviously he's not faking it properly. In other words,
Well, it hasn't happened yet.
right. The fact that it hasn't happened yet means that he's not actually doing the proper on the exterior. Maybe that's the answer to the question.
Like Esav used to try to fake it.
Oh, very interesting. So Esav, very interesting example. So one second, let me think about this. So Esav was the brother of Jacob, used to try to deceive his blind father Isaac. How did he do that? I think that's the answer. So what he did is that he deceived his father of his piety by asking him questions. How do you tithe salt? Which is an interesting question, because salt, do you tithe salt for its quantity or for its impact? It's an interesting question. For its quantity, you're supposed to tithe everything, right? 10%. But what salt is something which is a defined substance, but its quality is far greater than its quantity. Because when it gives taste to the whole food, do you have to tithe the whole food that it's flavoring or just the original quantity? This is a very pious question. So he made it look like, I think that's the answer. He made it look like he was pious on the outside, but really he wasn't. So that's what Rabbi Gamliel might have been saying. He says the guy that is interior doesn't match his exterior is like Esav. He's just faking the fake. He's faking the superficial external behavior, but he's not actually doing the superficial external behavior. Because if he was,
It would change.
he would have changed the inside. Now, this is what I love about studying Talmud with a group, because I've struggled with that question for a while. And I like how you just pulled it out of your sleeve. That's awesome. Thomas Jefferson, outside, since if you force it, it can make a change. Fake it till you make it. Yeah. Oh, so you agree with me? Fine. Exactly as I said. Good. Okay. You got that. All right, folks. I'm going to stop it over here today. That was great. Nice little piece over there. We'll move it through the Talmud slowly. We're inching through the Talmud, but you notice that the Talmud is it's unbelievable, because you could get stuck on a word. You could get stuck on a phrase. And then, what were you going to say?
No.
All right.
Footnote number 4. Also further on the right side of the page.
Yeah, we did 4.
Third paragraph. Others assume there was no examination because of how the examiner really know the depth.
All right, fine. So let's go here. I'm just going to do this note over here, note 5. In order to study in the yeshiva, a student would have to undergo an examination to determine if his interior is like his exterior. Those students who did not pass the examination were prevented from entering by the guard at the door of the base measure. So basically, they did some sort of
There was an evaluation.
There was some sort of evaluation. Others assume that there was no examination, because how could an examiner really know the depths of a man's heart? How God-fearing are you? Right? Rather, what's in your heart? Right? Capital 1. Rather, suggests the study Guru Rebbe, the guard did not allow any new students in. However, those students whose interior was like their exterior tried every strategy possible, not resting until they somehow managed to gain entry into the base measures. Those students were like Hillel. I spoke about Hillel last time we studied this, who in the Gemara Yom relates he was denied entry into the base measures because he couldn't afford to pay the small entrance fee. So what he did was he laid down in the skylight in the winter cold in order to listen to the lectures from there. The fact that the students pushed his way into the inside is the biggest sign that his interior was like his exterior. In other words, the fact that he pushed his way means that he was sincere. What?
It's like you said, your acts. You're putting on that clothing that you're acting, that you want to get in and you want to learn. It's you're forcing your way in. It's that you are.
Your interior really does.
Your interior.
Right, that shows that you're. So they basically made it so difficult to
Yeah.
get in that you had to really prove your way in.
Right.
Kind of like converts today, converts to Judaism. We tell the converts that we don't do converts. We don't understand converts. But if they really insist, it means that they're sincere. Okay, folks, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you very much. Shalom, and have a great day.
Now I understand.
So